And we were just talking during the break, and I was sharing my memory of going up. This might have been 3 summers ago, maybe two, but I think three. And I was driving up north toward Shoshone, and they had that big fire that burned south of there. And I couldn't believe that it got almost up to the Family Dollar. And you realize just how close it was to threatening that entire community. We probably haven't seen it lost an entire community since the Big Burn, going way back, what, over a century ago. But it was mightily close. And this is the concern I think people have, especially with as dry as it is.
Absolutely. And so, for my position, and actually my belief system is we need to encompass a planning for everyone. Everyone needs to understand what they can do. I'm over Twin Falls County. I have 8 cities, and one of the biggest concerns I have are those that are functional needs, our elderly, those that need to be able to have a shelter, those that need to have the basic knowledge, and how you really build that as partners. My job would not be what it is without the respect and having the partners that I do, and having the resources and training and helping people build an overnight bag or a 72-hour kit, we call it, and having food and their prescriptions or different items. But one of the keys also is making sure they have a copy of their pertinent records, their point of contact or family members, checking account numbers, savings account, anything that is technically part of their day to day that helps them live and and it's a resource list. Having a call out that's current with numbers so that they can call. But when we evacuate or ask people to leave their home because of a threat, and it's always priority is life safety, if they don't have those things in place, then they are really feeling, not only are they terrified, but they also realize that they're going to lose so much if they do. We've seen this nationally. We've seen this at fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, where people are totally destroyed. They've lost everything, but they have no records. And it's very hard to get records when the bank is gone or all of these key places are gone. And so, it starts with preparing again at home and putting together what you need, and it's an individual issue. You can purchase any kind of a 72-hour kit, but what you should but my philosophy is build it. It's very simple to look at what your needs are and have those things in place and be able to know that if you open that bag, the items you need to sustain your life or to even manage your life are there. And so it's a continuous movement. We're looking at in 2021, because of the COVID and because of everything that's gone on, really re-looking at what are priority issues, what are priority supplies, what needs to be put in your bag, and really how important it is to be able to, again, address a threat and how can you manage it. And outside resources that are coordinated are being done by myself, our first responders, by those people that are key. But personally, there are so many things you can do.
And you bring that up. You should probably have that bag ready to go, because
Absolutely.
if you don't have, someone comes and says you've got 15 minutes, you don't have time to go looking for all of
Absolutely.
those records.
Absolutely. And the really neat thing is, so for instance, I've worked with Office on Aging, and they have a red file, and I was able to help get a grant from the federal government to help them continue this project. This is an incredible project for seniors, and they put their pertinent information inside the red file, and it's magnetic and it hooks to the fridge. So if there's an emergency, those papers are all in that file. It's the same thing with being able to, and again, that's the same thing with whether it be your needing to have a copy of your birth certificate or where these things are at. You need to have them because identification, being able to follow a process, is going to be required for unification of families and to be able to continue services. We work with the public and the general agencies on, maintaining that there are pharmacies that can assist during an incident, that we can still get food, that we can still manage care. Transportation is a resource that we are as much needed in the Twin Falls community or our areas, but we look at our school buses. That number of them are owned privately now by the school districts. We have agreements or are working with a number of agencies so that we can get transportation if needed. When you address the fire in Shoshone, we have senior centers, we have nursing homes, schools, we have individuals in the community that at that time were very threatened. And all of us as emergency managers are actually there to support each other if something happens, because a coordinated effort again is needed to sustain life.
And you're going to be working with a lot of other partners, Red Cross, and some of these
Absolutely,
people step in.
absolutely. Red Cross is a huge part of my county as well as the other 44 counties in Idaho because they're key for putting together a shelter. We have a number of the agencies in our community, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief, a number of agencies that have always been there to support us and to help offer resources when needed.
I was thinking, if you have to go to a shelter, you also have to be concerned about what do you do with your animals
So
because there's not many places you can put them.
So actually, I guess this is going to be an interesting comment. I'm actually the chairman of the People for Pets Board in Twin Falls County now. That was an interesting question, Bill. Um, but before I was ever on the board for People for Pets, I worked very closely with Debbie Blackwood and very closely because FEMA requires, and part of my job is under FEMA, part of my funding is to really manage the care of animals. So we look at the Filer Fairgrounds as a place to house the animals, also working with Debbie and her agency. And the really critical part is unity and unification. After I went back after Katrina to help support and to also work on their new evacuation plan and those with functional needs. And one of the really serious issues that I saw firsthand was the animals who were domestic animals that were now wild. Because of what took place, there was no place for them to go. So when I came back, one of the critical parts of me managing our county was actually finding a place for our pets or animals so that if they were in a threat or something happened, there would be a place for them to be safe, fed, and then the families could come back and reunify with them. They'd have the grounds to walk with them. During that time, which is interesting, I've had horses, we've had cattle, we've had um, I don't think at this point we've actually even had a dog or cat go there because it's been amazing when people have been evacuated. They've gone to family members or they've gone elsewhere, and they have been able to take their pets. But during the Badger Fire, we had some larger animals that needed a place to go. And so we immediately made contact with John Pitts and immediately had a resource for them. So that, of course, again, we're trying to manage an event and we're trying to ensure safety.
I can remember seeing some of the photographs of people herding the sheep
Yes,
and the videos that were taken, and you had livestock as well, and
absolutely.
cattle that had to be moved.
Absolutely. And the really beautiful part about being rural, in the 24 years I've done this job, I've had an opportunity to travel the nation actually because of my position. I've done things after 9/11. My first major national incident was Oklahoma City bombing. They've changed my life, I will tell you that. There's an appreciation and there's a tremendous sadness when I see the suffering and what went on. But the one thing I can tell you about our state and our community is the not only the support from our religious entities or our just neighbors, individuals. We aren't a metropolitan community. We're a rural, Christian-based, really blessed community where people have no problem in offering, sharing. There has not been one incident that I have not participated in when it has been incredible, the kindness that's been shown with donations, with just offering support to other people. I have seen kindness for individuals who need a place to stay, but yet may possibly have some issues mentally or physically that we've worked to make accommodations so they're safe and things have gone well. And I have to believe, and I do believe that it's because of who we are and that we do want to know each other. We do care. We do want to support each other. We're not living in an area that is so large that we've lost sight of what really matters.
Got to mention Jackie Fry joining us this morning, and we're at 8:52 and 56 now on Magic Valley this morning with Bill Colley at 96.1 FM, News Radio 1310 KLIX, and News Radio 1310.com. And Jackie Fry is, by the way, if you did not know, if you're new to the area, Director of Emergency Management in Twin Falls County. When we talked a little bit about some of these resources that people have available, right now I'm told that every hotel in town is filled because they're filled with people waiting for new homes to open up. Some people obviously could go to a shelter. Some people can go to relatives' homes. But that's the other part about this. You may have to do some traveling to find a place to stay.
For a place to stay. But one of the things, too, is we can use our churches. And American Red Cross is working. I actually talk to them quite often. Yesterday, I spoke with Jim Brown locally from the Red Cross. And to address again, we have shelters set up in every one of the 8 cities. I can only speak for Twin Falls County since I am the coordinator for that county. But in the 8 cities in our county, we have agreements with American Red Cross, with our schools, and with our churches to be able to set up cots and be able to set up. Now, because of the housing industry and stuff, that technically doesn't classify under FEMA's definition as a disaster. So you have to understand it's really to maintain life safety. And I understand that there's an incredible amount of building, and that, I've heard statistics as possible as 83% of those coming into our community are from out of state building. But see, that brings another issue too. And again, it's education. These individuals that are moving into our communities need to know who we are, how we plan, what we do, and what their role is in maintaining their own home and maintaining their own safety. And so it'll be a continuous work in progress now to continue to develop programs so we can educate a new base population because we've got a tremendous amount of people coming in.
Yeah, thousands per year. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a big number to get your. I think Benito told me yesterday. I think that Kimberly had grown by 27% over the course of a decade, and it's going to grow even faster by the looks of things now.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you see more students, you see more schools going up, and you see more a more need, a bigger need, a larger need to be able to go in and do safety for schools and to go in and educate our citizens about, what kind of threat do we have? I have people call me and they'll say, I review your material, but you have nothing in the place of, you don't have a hurricane, you don't have a tsunami, you don't have these things. Well, those aren't threats in our county. And so again, their mindset is not that they're being ridiculous, but they're used to living where they were, and they have to readjust because they're going to have to understand that we can have some very severe cold. They're not used to that. There's a lot of issues that come up. If they're not prepared, then they become part of a problem, and the responders will have to support them. And so that's what I mean by education, is just to continue to move toward educating everyone who comes into our community. We're welcoming them, but we need to also help them address those new threats, those new things that are in our community.
Got to get to break in about a minute and a half, but you're going to stick around for a while. We're
Absolutely.
going to dig into some other things with all this too as well. And I'll just point out in the next half hour, if you've got a comment or question for Jackie Fry, Director of Emergency Management in Twin Falls County, feel free to give us a call. And you can also, if you have a question, comment, you don't have a phone available at the moment, you can use the app if you've got that on your smartphone. Send us a comment or question that way too as well, because what we're talking about this morning is broad because a number of things can happen. But right now, of course, the biggest concern is how dry it happens to be. But we've talked about EMP weapons before. We've talked about
Absolutely.
even flooding happens in certain
Absolutely.
areas, and so all of these things are going to come into play at this point. But it's the severe drought. I think I heard today that about 4/5 of Idaho now are pretty close to severe drought or in
Abs-
severe drought.
Absolutely. And water's being shut down. We have areas where the farming is being affected greatly. Um, it is again, if you looked at last year, again, when I earlier said, people are saying, well, we're expecting this from last year, but see, I think it's worse. And that's the one thing we're seeing is this: we are seeing tremendous weather changes. Things are hotter, things are drier. We're not seeing the moisture, we're not seeing the snow pack that we had always have seen before. And so again, you've got to, take the time to go outside, look what's around your home. Look how you can mitigate what's around your home from being a potential fire hazard.